All right, guys. My name is Michael Angela. This is my senior project on track. Track is a sport that I've been playing for all 4 years, or I should say running, for all 4 years of high school, and it means a lot to me, and I figured this would be a great, perfect project for me. Track is a sport you can run for the rest of your life. That's what this picture represents. The track is on a sunset, which looks like, an endless continuation. You can't see any land in sight throughout that track. It's just endless because this sport is endless and you can play it for the rest or run it for the rest of your life. And that's one of the great things about track. Now, many of you would ask, what is track? Track and field is a sport which includes athletic contests established on the skills of running, jumping, and throwing. Many people, participate in a lot of track events, and it definitely involves a lot of skill, and there is jumping and throwing in the field portion of this sport as well. Equipment used in track. First off, you have a legal size regulation running track. It has to be a legal size track. It can't be it can't be a track like the Mineola High School track that's not really legal size. It has to be a 100% legal size track. A good pair of running sneakers or shoes. You really got to make sure you're wearing the right shoes because, wearing the wrong shoes can result in an injury. You definitely do not want to get injured. So it's really important that you wear the right shoes. A baton for relays. The relay is when you run with a baton in your hand and you pass it to the next person for a certain distance that each person runs a quarter of. Or there's other relays too, like the SMR and the DMR, which is sprint medley relay or distance medley relay. Then there are starting blocks, which help you get a faster start so that you run a faster time, typically used in sprinting only. And then there are hurdles. Hurdles is an event in track where you jump over the hurdle while running. It's very interesting, and it's all pretty cool. Track events, sprints/dashes. Runners begin the race at the sound of the starter pistol, reach their full stride immediately, and maintain their fastest speed until they cross the finish line. These events include the 100 meters, one straightaway on the track, 200 meters, half of a lap, and the 400 meters, which is one whole lap. The hardest sprint of all of these is the 400, as it involves massive endurance and speed at the same time to hold it for the whole lap, while the 100 is the easiest race that just involves you running a single straightaway. And the 200 is a half a lap, which is sort of tougher than 100, but not quite as hard as a 400. But you still need a little bit of guts for the 200 as well. But the 400 is the real man race, and the 100 is kind of the easy sprinting race. Track events, middle distances. Middle distance runners may start the race in either lanes or alleys. After about 200 meters, they can merge or cut into the very first lane. Middle distance runners don't quite sprint, but still run very fast and very hard. They must pace themselves to where they don't go out too easy, but not too hard either. An 800 meters is 2 laps around the track. An 1,000-meter race is usually indoors, 5 laps, or 2.5 laps on an outdoor track. And the 1,500 is about a mile, a little less than a mile. A full mile is technically 1,609 meters, so even people who run the 1,600 are still not quite running a full mile, but the 1,500 is definitely even shorter than that, so the 1,500 technically isn't a mile, but it's commonly kind of associated with that. Track events, long distances. A long distance race is any running event on the track that is longer than 3,000 meters. In these type of events, runners must make sure to start out at a relaxed, comfortable pace and gradually pick it up throughout the race so that they can kick and finish strong in the end. The 3,200 meters, also known as 2 miles or 8 laps around the track. 5,000 meters is a 5K, distance of 3.1 miles, and 10,000 meters, very long distance race, a 10K, like running the 5K 2 times in a row. You'll need to be in shape for this race, and I'm not kidding when I say that. I personally, the longest track event I've ever ran is a mile, and even that's tough. Running a 10K, that's over 6 miles, that's even longer than my long runs. That is definitely one uncomfortable, super tough race. These types of runners are typically the most respected because of their mental toughness in the sport and how hard it is to be a distance runner. Types of track meets in high school. League meets, fewer schools and teams, typically short, around 2 hours long, very quick, you're in and out. Invitational meets, much longer meets with many different schools and teams. School is invited to the meet and has to pay for its athletes to complete. Typically an all-day event. They have to pay for their athletes to compete, and it's typically an all-day event. Usually the school pays for it, so athletes are free of charge, even though it's technically paid by the school. Division championship meets, a handful of teams that go and score points per event for their school. You kind of have to qualify for that, but everybody sort of gets to run it automatically. But you still, if you're that bad at track, you won't be accepted into this meet. If you're like average at it, you will, and you'll be put in a scoring position even if you're not the absolute fastest. County championship meets, this one's more serious. You got to be good for this one. Similar to the division meet, but only the top athletes in the county compete. I accomplished running in one county meet during this senior year of high school. And state qualifier meets, top athletes compete for a chance to place in the state meet. State championship meet, top athletes in the state compete. These are the best of the best athletes of track. You are definitely a one-of-a-kind track stud if you are able to run in the state championship meet. That is one respectable, majorly respectable accomplishment. Now we're going to get to our very famous track athletes. And our first famous track athlete is Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt is the world's fastest man and a Jamaican sprinter who can run up to speeds of 28 miles per hour. To put into perspective on how fast that is, it's around the same speed that a car goes on average on a side street. He is the record holder for the 100 meters, 9.58 seconds, the 200 meters, 19.19 seconds, and the 4x100 meter relay in 36.85 seconds. This is literally the fastest man ever known and recorded on Earth. Another famous track athlete that's not quite as fast as him, but is still extremely talented, is Tyson Gay. Tyson Gay, who was born on August 9th, 1982, is an American track and field sprinter who competes in the 100 and 200 meter dash. His 100 meter personal best of 9.69 seconds is the American record and makes him tied for the second fastest athlete ever, along with Johan Blake. His 200 meter time of 19.58 makes him the seventh fastest athlete in that event. Now, any of these athletes who can break that 10-second pace in sprinting for 100 meters or run a 200 in under 20 seconds, that's just amazing. That's ridiculously fast. Track workouts. Definition of a track workout is a workout consisting of various distances as multiple reps on the track. Example, you run 2 400s and 2 200s. Many workouts are way longer and way harder. And as you can see, we have it demonstrated right there, what an example of a track workout would be. Now, this is pretty tough, it's not comfortable. It's supposed to hurt. It's designed to hurt. And it's definitely not, it's not that comfortable and it's not easy, but it's what makes you better. And every athlete has to do these to assure that they become good enough in track. Now, here comes the interview with Mr. Fretz. There's a picture of Mr. Fretz in our high school gym, and right here is a video that I am going to play. It is around 8 minutes long.
Hello, Mr. Fretz. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm good. Today is April 6th, 2020. We are facing a pandemic. We're on WebEx, and I'm about to interview Mr. Fretz for my senior project.
Yes.
So, Mr. Fretz, you're the track coach of Mineola, and, I figured you'd be a great guy to ask these questions to.
All right, let's do it.
All right. My first question to you is, what high school did you run track at?
So I ran for Elwood John Glenn High School, and I ran cross-country, winter track, and spring track all 4 years of high school, except my freshman year in cross-country, I was injured. So I missed most of the season, but...
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's okay.
My second question to you is, that's a very good story, by the way. What were your best track events? What were your best times?
So my best events were probably the 400 and the 800. My best 400 time was 56 and change. I don't remember exactly. And my best 800 was a 2:09 that I ran in winter at the Armory as a relay leg of a 4x8.
So that was 4-lap race instead of a 2-lap race on the banked track.
Yes, and we were in a really competitive heat because I was running with teammates who all ran sub 2 minutes. So I was really scared, and I ran really fast because I didn't want to be the slowest person.
Yeah, and so what was the total? Do you remember what your total time was?
I don't remember, but all the other 3 runners on my relay team could run sub 2 minutes. So it was... even though I ran a 2:09 or a 2:10, I was still considerably slower than them.
Yeah. Did all the others break 2 minutes?
Yeah, for the most part. Not every race, but they were pretty fast.
Okay. What kind of diet should you have in track?
So I think it's important to obviously be well hydrated. Make sure that you're drinking a lot of water throughout the day, not just right before you run. And it's also important to just eat a well-balanced diet of fats, carbohydrates, protein, a lot of fruits and vegetables, and try to cut back on things that are sugary or things that are processed.
Yeah, that's definitely not good. What age were you when you ran track?
So it was pretty much middle school and high school. So I guess from around 12 until 18, I would say.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You know, you had 6 years of running under your belt. That's pretty good.
Although I still run to this day, not competitively though.
Yeah. Did running track in high school help you when you were in the military? Why or why not?
Yeah, it definitely did help me because I was in great physical shape when I went to boot camp. And a lot of the other Marines had a tough time running 3 miles for the physical fitness test, qualifying in boot camp. And it was a lot easier for me. Even some of the hikes that we would go on, I felt like I was well prepared for endurance activities because of my background running.
That's very nice. What suggestions do you have to runners who are trying to improve their times?
So I would say runners who want to improve their time, the best advice that I could give is everything is mental. I think that your biggest competitor is yourself, and your own mind is going to try and slow you down far more often than any other person is. So I think overcoming that mental barrier and kind of getting into a new tier, a new level of performance, it's challenging, and it's all in your head.
Yeah, it sure is. It's definitely a challenge, and you know we all work hard for it. What are your favorite shoes to wear for track, and why?
So I like to wear shoes that are heavy, and I tend to gravitate towards shoes that are designed for running on trails. And the reason why I like trail shoes is because they are really cushioned, because they're supposed to be supporting you when you're stepping on tree trunks and roots and rocks and things like that. So because they're designed for off-road running, they have more cushion, and I like that because the more cushion you have, the less abuse your joints take and the less likely you are to get hurt.
Okay, that's very good. That's very good advice for shoes. How has coaching track at Mineola impacted your life?
So, coaching at Mineola has been a really awesome and rewarding experience for me. I get to spend time with students outside of the academic arena. We don't have to worry about tests and grades. And I think it's been a really nice opportunity to connect with more people than I would if I was just teaching in the classroom.
It's a very, very good A very good way of thinking. Do you prefer an athlete in track based on performance or effort?
I definitely consider myself to be somebody who cares more about and rewards people for trying. I don't think it really matters what your level of performance is. I think the most important thing is effort, not just in track, but in all activities.
Yes, that's a good way of thinking. I believe in that too. If you're trying, somebody runs a 20-second 200 but jogs it versus somebody who runs a 35-second 200 but sprints it. The other person tried harder.
Correct.
Because I've seen those YouTube videos of a guy who runs a 46-second 400 and they slow down at the line, or they look like they're jogging the last 100 meters. It's crazy.
Well, it's hard to know who's working the hardest, right? Because somebody could run a really fast time but not be trying that hard. Maybe they're really tall or they have some more natural ability. So it's an interesting
They're just really
question.
talented.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my last question is, what kind of discipline, in your opinion, does running have on an athlete?
I think running long distance by yourself and kind of subjecting yourself to discomfort willingly builds a lot of self-discipline, and that self-discipline can help you be successful in a lot of other areas. I think motivation is one of the most important things in order to be successful, and it's hard for a lot of people. And I just think if you, at a young age, can develop a habit of running on your own, even when you're not with your teammates or you're not at practice, if you can build a routine and a schedule for yourself, that's going to be very helpful for you later in your life.
Yeah. And that's it. It's good to hear. Sure had a lot of good things to say. Thank you, Mr. Fretz, for your time. I appreciate it. It was nice hearing from you.
No problem. I'm happy to help, and I'm looking forward to seeing your senior project presentation.
All right. Take care.
And that is my interview with Mr. Fretz. We talked about, certain things with track and what track is about. And, he is the Mineola track coach, as you can see on his shirt right there. He's been my coach for 4 years. He's the best coach ever. And I figured there'd be no better person to interview for track other than him. And that's all he had to say and all I had to say with him. Last and final slide. What track means to me. Track is a sport to where you can forget about the other things going on in your life, such as the stressful schoolwork and any other problems at home maybe. It's like a stress reliever to run track, literally. Being with your friends is definitely a big time stress reliever. Track is a good way to get together with a lot of friends and complete intense speed and endurance tasks that most average people not in track aren't able to do. You're like one tough, strong group with your friends in track, and that is indeed true. For people who are dedicated to it, especially, not those who play nonsense with it, those who legitimately try and work their butts off every day are truly respectable and tough athletes. And most of all, track has really shaped me into being a stronger and tougher person and gives the most intense vibes of goals and success. And that is indeed true because, track, it's definitely all about goals. It's definitely all about success. In this left picture right here, I'm running a 400 at the division meet last year. And in this right picture here, it's a picture of my track team at the Herrick's Invitational last year. And that is it for my senior project. I really hope you all liked it. It's a great project. I worked hard on it. Me and Miss Honorkamp worked on it. You know what? I think it's a great project, I worked my butt off on it. I really wish I could have presented this in front of a class, but unfortunately, the circumstances just didn't lean towards it. It sucks, but this is how it is. So here is my virtual senior project on track verbal presentation. I hope you all enjoyed.